Hey guys, I'm Chris.
And I'm Mike.
And welcome back to this week's No Limits, the Thriller Podcast. How you doing today, Mike? Should we just go right from the bat? You are coming in this pod flying high.
I'm coming in hot, but you gotta forgive me. I have lost my voice after an afternoon of screaming and cheering on my soccer team, who just won a European Cup trophy. A little bit of that, too. A couple of shots of ye old Italian Borghetti, an espresso and liqueur combo. So, yeah, I'm a little amped up right now.
Roma just won, or not just, but a couple hours ago, won the vaunted European Conference League.
You
trophy,
got that right.
Did I get that one right? It's a new league, but it has a lot of history, but it's new.
No one really cares or wants to hear about it because, one, they probably are not soccer fans and definitely not European soccer fans. And this is a third-tier trophy that pretty much means absolutely nothing. But it's our first trophy in Europe in 61 years. So that is 2 of my lifetimes almost. So I'm going to celebrate, and celebrate I did.
Hey, you know what? I'll have to tell you, this would be the last bit we talk about soccer, but I'm jealous because my team wasn't even playing in that league.
Couldn't even
they were
make
so
that
bad.
The third-tier team, so that's why I'm excited.
At least we're in the We'll both be in the Europa League next year. So.
Yeah, next year there's hope in the Europa League. See what we can do. Yeah, let's make the magic happen. All right, we're talking books though, Chris.
Yes.
What book are we getting into today?
Right, just a little bit of an update. We've been covering all the works of Chris Hauty. For some reason, we decided to do this at a two week block. Not for some reason. We enjoy these books. I say that because we picked 2 weeks where me and Mike are probably the most busiest we have been since creating this podcast.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of moving. Mike's at the end of the school year. Mike has these important soccer games to watch. His wife is sick. We got COVID again.
You had COVID again? What, third time?
I lost power. So, it's just been crazy. But anyways, we are doing all of Chris Hauty's books. So today we're going to be covering Savage Road. Sometime in the near future, we're going to be covering the little novella that he did, Insurrection Day. So be on the lookout for that pod. We've already covered his latest book, Storm Rising, which we're going to try to, really look at this book as its second book. So we're not going to tie any connections to Storm Rising. That's the third book.
And we won't spoil Storm Rising for those of you who are only on Savage Road.
Correct. But obviously we're gonna be spoiling Deep State, which we have already done that pod as well.
Right.
You can't talk about this book without spoiling Deep State.
No. And
then just, I guess in the future, we're going to be covering a lot of Jack Carr stuff with his new book, TV series. Be on the look for that. We also have to mention our other pod that's currently going on right now, No Limits, the Scott Harvath podcast. So we wrapped up the second book this month. Be on the lookout for Brad's Thor book. Brad's third book, State of the Union.
Third Thor book. Say
Thor?
That 5 times fast.
Not this late at night.
With a sore throat and COVID.
So check out State of the Union coming at you next month on the Scott Harvath feed. So I think that's all the admin I have. But so like I said, we're covering the second book, Storm Rising. What did you think about this book, Mike?
Well, Chris, you know what I like to do to share my thoughts. I like to put it in the form of a limerick.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, okay. Well, there once was a terrorist named Cyber Jihad. Hot on his trail, April and Hayley team up as a squad. DoD servers he'll blow after derailing the metro. Publius's actions to catch him we applaud. I gotta fix these up. I'm not following the proper format, so this one was squeezed in last minute. Let's just move on. You mentioned something. You mentioned, does this book work as a follow-up to Deep State? Can it stand on its own without having read Deep State? While I noticed Chris put little short summaries of who is Publius, Why is Richard Monroe, the president, the currently sitting president, an actual Russian mole? I feel like all that just would seem ridiculous if you pick up Savage Road and get that as a 2-paragraph, explain away. Where if you read Deep State, you're so bought in to what seems otherwise absolutely, ridiculous. So I don't know if I would, well, one, I would never recommend anyone start with Savage Road. It's Deep State all the way. Deep State, Deep State, Deep State. But I don't think Savage Road is as near as a good book as I think it is if you haven't read Deep State. So I think Deep State does a lot for this book, and this book does a lot for Deep State in telling you the next phase of where we left off with Hayley. So I'm going to say their package, right? It's more of a 1-2 than a lot of other series out there, which maybe you can explain, Mitch's backstory in 2 or 3 pages, which Vince would do every book, and that's okay. Or Scott, Scott Harvath. You can get into him. You don't have to know too much about him skiing and whatnot. Like Lions of Lucerne, great. You really know him as this championship skier and this Secret Service agent. But if you pick up the 4th, 5th book and he's no longer with the Secret Service, that's fine. You'll just roll with it. I don't think you can just roll with the American president is a mole and there's this super deeper state called Publius.
Yeah. No, I think, the theme that I picked out for this was just like, this book is just straight up continuation of a storyline. It's like part 2 of the Deep State, which, and I don't want to, we're not trying to say that that's a bad thing. I actually, when I was starting to read this book, I was like, I don't know how, it's good, but not as good as Deep State. But by the end of it, I actually really enjoyed this book.
Yeah.
And, it's just a little bit different than what we're used to. Because I think what we're used to, right, is when we do get with Vince, Kyle, Brad, when we get some 2-part elements, whether it's a continuation of a story arc, while there is a continuation, every time they write a book, they write it so that way you could pick up that book and be fully immersed in it.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know if this book is the case, because I guess you could. You're going to be super confused why the president is a Russian mole. Maybe it'll make you want to go back but that it just ruins it. It super spoils Deep State. It's
it does.
So I don't know, but I guess I was trying to think of like a comp, but yeah, I don't know. Anyways, I don't want to get too negative right off the bat because I did really enjoy this book. But yeah, it's just wow. You really, it's almost part 2 of Deep State.
Yeah. And let me ask you this, because I know the synopsis you're about to read, it goes into this. What did you think about the pivot to cyber warfare?
Yeah, I guess you had to pick a different theme to go with.
Different type of enemy and attack.
Different type of enemy, which again, he'll change it up again with his 3rd book, and he mentioned in his interview that he wants to change it again with his 4th book and the 5th book, whatever. So yeah, I liked it. I didn't want the same sort of shtick that we had in the previous Deep State, but I think I really the villain here. We can get right into cyber jihad and right after I read my normal shtick, but it wasn't like super. It wasn't like a Hank Clark, I guess. But he also wasn't Power Station,
No, he gets under your skin, though, in this really psychological, creepy, crawly sense. Not exactly how... Who's the guy in Memorial Day? He comes in on the boat. The sick old man. I always forget his name. Yeah, but the same way he's so creepy.
Mustafa?
Yes, Al-Yamani. Mustafa Al-Yamani.
Al-Yamani. Well, it's a Yamani here.
and okay, it's Rafi Yamani here. Look at that. Wasn't even going for that. But the way you get inside his head and he thoroughly creeps you out. Rafi Yamani is doing that, but in a modern, young, insulated, and this whole incel idea, involuntary celibate. And when you get his thoughts on the page, when he sees, these college girls walking a dog past him on the street, and he harbors so much resentment. He's like, some other bitches who won't sleep with me. And he's mouthing off to himself in his own mind about them. like it creates this really creepy profile of someone who is resentful, who's radicalized, who's an introvert in a sense, and at the same time has the skills, the coding skills, the hacking skills to pretty much do whatever he wants. And then another complexity of this villain, if that doesn't creep you out a lot, the different sexual comments he's harboring in his mind and this front he's putting on when he meets these people in the cafe, this girl who wants to talk to him and he's secretly thinking really evil things about her. On top of that, you don't even know who he's working for.
Right.
So it's like cyber jihad makes you think he's in with an Islamic terrorist group. And I do think he's of Middle East complexion or heritage. But that's not even the point. You know, the point is it the Russians? Because, again, a whole plot in the White House is trying to pin this on the Russians. And then we have this Claire Ryan character, which we'll get to her and her reveal, who he's actually working for. And then he also goes on his own, makes his own decisions a lot of times. So he's a lone wolf. Yeah. And then we learn he's working at the NSA. So, like, it just runs deep how connected this guy is. And it's all because he's got the skills. I could see him working for all of those masters, if you will, because he's that good.
Right. All right, let me just give you the little bit of the background. So we have the Goodreads is 4.05, Amazon is 4.4. Not bad. A little bit less than Deeper State, but or Deep State, but you know, still solid. We had this quote from C.J. Box, #1 New York Times bestselling author. Hayley Chill descends even deeper into the dangerous political web of Washington, D.C. in this thrilling sequel to the propulsive and page-turner, compelling national bestseller, Deep State. When a series of devastating cyber attacks rocks the United States, Hayley Chill is tasked by the Deeper State to track down their sources. Right, like so you're immediately thrust in. I'm sorry, I'm breaking. When you pick up this book, they have to immediately say Hayley Chill is part of the Deeper State because there's this Deep State. You know, like because the whole. Yeah. Anyways,
you can't just explain that away. You need to read Deep State.
It's hard. It's hard. Yeah. NSA analysts insist that Moscow is the culprit. But that accusation brings plenty of complications, with Hayley directing the president as a double agent against the Russians. With increasing pressure on the president to steer him towards the devastating war, it is up to Hayley to stop the mysterious computer hacker and prevent World War III. Also, while uncovering some shocking truths about her own life.
Yeah, we got to get to that.
Yeah, so I like this little synopsis because I think it breaks down sort of every aspect of the story, and each of them I want to talk to you about because I think they need to be picked apart a little bit.
Yes.
So we have running of the mole in the White House, right? You know, using him as a double agent, the president, right? We have the attacks by Zamani and cyber jihad. We have Hayley's personal life. Both we meet Sam McGovern, right? And then also her tracking down of her father's past. And then we have like sort of all the other cast of characters that are thrown in there, Claire Ryan. So which one did you want to pick up with first?
Yeah, I think you're right. We almost have to go character and storyline by character.
Right.
We're on the bad guys. So one other bad guy, and it's also the way the action opens, if we can get into. Hayley's handling the president, but he is also reaching out to his handler, who he doesn't even know who it is. It's Alberto Barrios. So let's wrap up the White House, Hayley handling him, and then Alberto Barrios, because the opening scene jumps right into the action.
What did you think about that? Like putting us in, and then going backwards 10 days or whatever it was.
Yeah, that was a new device. I don't remember being in Deep State. And it was kind of fun because I'm like, how does her chasing this guy and essentially strangling him or using a key to kill him in the bathroom of the GW Deli, which, you know, I've definitely ordered a few breakfast sandwiches there. There's a high school I did student teaching at right across the street, actually. A DC public school. What is that high school? That shares the campus with GW. School Without Walls. The deli was right across from there. And so, yeah, she's chasing him and everything. And then I'm like, wait, 10 days earlier, what happens to get to this point? And who was he? And then when you get it later, which is very later in the book, it was a lot of fun. Right. to come back and be like,
yeah.
oh, she's going to chase this guy. And turns out he was the president's Russian handler as a mole, a Cuban-American mole who was the butler at the White House. And they'd communicate by leaving notes in a book. And based on where they put the book in the residence, if the president shifts the book over a little bit, that means there's a note inside. And the president never knew who picked it up. Turns out it was his butler.
Well, and then the butler would go and talk to like an actual Russian.
Russian, right, exactly.
Right.
So maybe he's not the handler, but he's like the go-between.
Right. So this whole tension, right, with Monroe and him being used as a double agent, I enjoyed it. I thought like the interactions he had with Hayley, when they're walking in the hallways, they're cordial, because everyone thinks, right, that Hayley is Monroe's like, little side piece, essentially.
Saved his life,
favorite, saved his life,
Teacher's pet.
whatever. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. But in actuality, he hates her guts,
And he's signaling. He's nervous. She's onto something.
Yes, and she knows that he is going to try to get out. Doesn't know, how he's going to do it, but is really gearing, especially because the more and more these attacks get attributed to Russia, and she knows that he's not going to act on any of those things. It just adds more and more pressure. The little like quips where we get, they have these interactions at the Rose Garden, and he thinks that she speaks Russian to him, and he's like, oh wait, did the security guard or the Secret Service agent hear us? Like, those little touches, like, it adds for suspension. I really enjoyed that. And then I'd have to say that the best action sequence from this entire story is the how he gets out, how he gets extradited.
You like that?
With I thought it was crazy. I really enjoyed that part. I don't know.
Okay.
I guess you didn't.
I think I enjoyed it in the sense of I'm reading a book and I'm really bought in because something wild is happening here. But when I take,
do you think the Secret Service would actually lose the president? No, probably not. But.
That I don't think in that way. When you take a step back, right? I was bought in. So thinking ahead to the scorecard, I was bought into the action, qua the action for the sake of action in a story. But if you step back, the Secret Service in the White House were so quick to just flag down a nearby, DC ambulance to take the president away with very little.
There was like a one-liner that explained it away, why they picked that
were first
and not
on
the
scene.
in-house. Yeah.
They had better trauma response or whatever. I'm sorry, no. The Secret Service and the medical staff and whatever that process is in the hierarchy is more equipped to handle that than just some random unidentified ambulance. Did they really literally, just because the president was having a medical emergency, let two guys in with a stretcher, just paramedics, walk right up into the Oval Office? Like, stepping back, it rubbed me wrong that things happen that way. Sure, it's a story, it's fiction, it's made up, but I gotta say, it was one of those moments that did have me take a step back and say, I don't know about this. And the fake blood, and like he pretended to shoot himself. I think every Secret Service agent, even the ones right there, first on scene, wouldn't be duped by fake blood and a grazing wound that didn't actually kill him. And they were so quick to think that the president died. I don't know. It had some faults for me. I love the action.
I don't know
but it had some faults.
I don't know how you fake. Like my biggest. I enjoyed like just like the idea of everything, but when you pick apart like the actual nitty gritty of the plot, I was thinking about it. Like, how do you fake like a headshot wound to the head? Because like,
right. I don't know.
It's not like, oh, I got shot in the foot. I need to get rushed, but it's like, oh, he tried to commit suicide. So, when you try to commit suicide, like you're going to
do it,
put it in your mouth, like put it on your, like you're going to do it. And so like when someone walks in, they're going to see like, holy shit, like
you did it.
His head's missing, like, I don't know. But I guess maybe Barrios, doctored him up to look really good. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe I'm reading too much into it. It's a story. And let's be honest, it's going to be really hard to exfil the president. So I understand you're between a rock and a hard place.
any plan that someone comes up with is preposterous, because like literally the one of the most protected men on the earth,
right?
Unless like the Secret Service are in on it, right? Which
unless it's
maybe
an inside
would
job.
Maybe you couldn't put it past them because of what happened in Deep State, like with how many were on the Deep State payroll. And
that might have been more fun for me if Barrios all of a sudden contacted like a Russian sleeper agent in the Secret Service and activated him,
right?
Like, and that's how they got him out. Did some covert stuff. Yeah, I don't know, but a good action scene. I'll agree. Although I think my favorite action was the opening.
The opening was very good action. I was thinking about instead of a gun, which is like super messy, like just have him
like a poison.
I feel like I feel like I've seen where like the poison that like super slows your heart,
exactly,
and it's, but you're still alive,
and then they can jumpstart him.
And then they can jumpstart him later on, give him the antidote, whatever. I don't know. Anyways, but the fact that I guess we're sort of jumping around, but continuing with this whole storyline, she had the wherewithal to put the molar in his mouth, and that way she was able to run him, keep tabs on him throughout, even when he's over there, and he goes off to pasture. Do you think he ends up getting killed in the end? Will he get killed?
It's never written on the page. Am I right?
No, it's not. It's not written. It's not written.
I think it might just be one of those he gets forgotten. He's like a celebrity over there. They might play him up for a little while. The president might rely on him for a bit. But I think eventually he's just going to fade away, be a retiree, and they might take him out. Who knows? The Russians might take him out at some point. But I did think it was cool, the very ending, where Andrew Wilde is kind of down on Hayley, and she knows, she blew the op of running the president. Yet she had the ace in the hole. And I love how they just listen into the meeting. And it's like the Russian president and defense ministers and FSB and all this. And she's just listening to it. And Andrew Wilde is like, what the hell? What did you do? Like, I thought that was kind of cool where Hayley could pull that out really cool. And just listen to this meeting inside the Kremlin. That
it reminds me of have you seen the season finale of Homeland?
I did, but I don't remember the details.
Okay, it reminds me of that where, we think that Claire, what's her name? We think that she's Claire Danes.
But I forget the character.
I forget the character's name.
Yeah.
We think that she's a Russian mole, and then she sends that book to Saul, it has like information and stuff. So
I remember that.
But she's actually a spy,
because she's dating or she's living with that guy
with the KGB officer,
the tall, skinny dude. Yeah, he's a good actor in that too. I like both of them in that.
It just reminded me of that.
So we've got a lot of these attacks going on. So I thought just to summarize, like, what do you think of the actual attacks? Like, the Washington Post or some newspaper outlets are shut down by what we think is the Russians. It has the cyber jihad, signature when the NSA digs into the thing. And then that's the same signature when the DoD servers are taken down, which is much later. And another one when the metro system crashes and Hayley's on the blue line. Funny story about that. When the train crashed and she literally walked however far she did up the tunnel and came out at the Roslyn Metro, came out of the tunnel to be at the Roslyn Metro. I was listening to that on audiobook, and that part happened literally when I'm sitting at the traffic light on the opposite side of the Key Bridge.
No
right
way,
at
really?
The tunnel where the Roslyn Metro comes up. I was literally sitting there listening to the audiobook at that moment.
That's like some sort of, there's a name for that phenomena,
Yeah, I forget what it is.
Yeah, no, I like the progression of the attacks. I thought that, they were pretty sound in terms of he's going to do some attack to just show you what he can do. Mm-hmm. And it's not, I guess stalling your newspapers for a day or however long it was, it's going to be annoying. But, nothing too bad. And then he does I guess, was he trying to was he trying to hurt people? But no one ended up dying actually in that metro crash. But maybe he just wanted to show his power. He actually, that's the reason why he ends up getting caught, right? Because he goes to look.
Right.
And Hayley, with her memory, is able to see him, right?
ID him, yeah. Because he's a narcissist. He wants to see his damage.
Right, and then we get a Stafford, Virginia, where I'm potting from tonight.
There you go.
Stafford station with the what was that? Natural gas, right? For heating and electricity.
Yep. Shuts down the utilities.
The description of that, and then like it blows, like that was pretty cool. Yeah, and then he goes into the DOD, gets those files to blackmail Hayley. I guess not blackmail, but like to throw him. He knew that if he sent these files, she would be upset, sort of get him off her trail. And then is there another attack? I guess he tries to take out the airplane at the very end and doesn't get that off, right?
That's right. But then there's also he swats Hayley. He calls in a false alarm or plants evidence in the SWAT team. I never heard of that, swatting. Busts in her door. You remember that?
No, I don't remember that.
There's a swatting incident, which is when you call the police with a fake emergency on somebody or fake evidence on somebody. I forget what that was. It was weird. It just happened out of nowhere. It was another example of him trying to get under her skin and kind of get her to stop being on his trail. I did like how he teases her, because here's a big storyline we didn't get into. He teases her with the documents about her father. And he's dropping hints to her, really just to toy with her, because we know he's maniacal. But the documents are hinting there might have been a friendly fire incident, and the DOD is covering some of this up. And this gets Hayley to put even more pressure on Charlie Hicks. So let me ask you, what did you think about the Charlie Hicks stuff lingering, which was who Hayley believed was her father's fellow Marine, who she hunted down and got contact info for? Tries to find him at the Pentagon. She eventually goes to his house and knocks on the door, which is a big scene. What did you think about that throughout the book? And then what did you think about that as the big twist at the end?
Yeah, so once we got to the end of it, I enjoyed it, but as we're going through, it was kind of just like, man, it's taking us out of like the main plot of the story. But I realized what he wanted to do in the end, once like we found out that, it's actually her father, and how, I guess it's not too much of a spoiler, but obviously we're going to pick right up from where that ends, and dive into that little nugget. So he saw this roadmap and saw where he wanted to finish. But yeah, I was just like, why are we, she even mentions, she had to take off time from work to go do this. Like, yeah, you're taking off time from me learning about cyber jihad and her interactions with April Wu to do these things. I wanted to ask you, how did he know to send her those documents? Or he was just like poking around for, he knew that she was Hayley Chill, looked for documents based on her name.
Yeah, I can't remember.
And then I don't think that it was mentioned, and then just was like, this is interesting. I wonder if she knows about this, and sends it to her.
Yeah, I don't remember that exact.
He could probably cross-reference what was said about Tommy Chill in like the local, obituaries, whatever, and be like, it doesn't say he was killed by friendly fire. But the government obviously said. I don't know. I was just a little confused about how he immediately knew to send her these documents.
Well, it was probably
it's a MacGuffin. So,
well, I don't know. It was probably after Hayley and April are walking down the street, or they're near that bar, and there's a near run-in with him, and then they also, after April IDs him at the NSA, and he's kind of on the run. So I feel like it's deep into the part where he knows at least April and Hayley, because he saw them on the street, and he sees April at NSA. I think Hayley might be there too, actually, also. Right. So I feel like he, by that point, very deeply knew they were onto him, and it nearly did throw Hayley. She does become a bit of an emotional wreck and realizes, there were a few times where I think she realizes she might be making missteps in the actual mission and the investigation.
Right.
But that's because she's so bought into what Charlie Hicks might know about her father. So I don't know. I feel like that's a legit attempt from Cyber Jihad, after he's backed into a corner, to try to play one last emotional card for his, pursuers to kind of throw them off the scent. And it nearly does, because Hayley gets very invested in wanting to know what happened to her father, which takes her off of being 100% focused on stopping cyber jihad.
Right. So I guess to go along with this is we get to learn a little bit more about April Wu.
Yes.
It starts off with her actually ransacking Hayley's apartment in an attempt to, I guess Publius is, just a little bit unsure of who Hayley Chill is, even though they obviously vetted her, put her through some training, and told her probably the most craziest bit of information ever, in that the president is a Russian spy, but still don't trust her. Yeah. So send April Wu in, and this, creates this dynamic that I was kind of digging. I like April Wu. I like her as like a yin to Hayley's yang. I hope we see a lot more of April Wu going forward.
Yeah, and honestly, just to back up, I think we have to point that out as a major winner and a big move by Chris to revisit April Wu and Wilde, because they were both really only in the last, 10-15% of Deep State. We kind of felt that denouement, that wrapping up of things at the end of Deep State, maybe was a little too long-winded, but it paid off here, because when you open the book and April Wu comes back, and this Wilde character is the contact, and they're running and he's running the show. I thought bringing them back and fleshing out what we learned so briefly about Hayley's training and introduction to Publius, it almost felt like a continuation of that. It was like, I'm along for the ride. And so I thought, just great move to pick up on how you're going to insert those two into the story. And it creates almost this triangle, this operational triangle, but also this friendship, this budding friendship. So I think it adds a lot of depth, and just a smart move, a brilliant move to do that.
Yeah, the one funny thing that is mentioned is like Andrew Wilde is always bronzed, but it's like not natural. I just thought that was a funny little like character quirk that Chris throws in there. Yeah, no, I think that fleshing out Publius a little bit more. I think as we go along, read these books, we're going to understand a little bit more about what this organization is, what the deeper state is, who are the people that make it up. Yeah, and it bummed me out that we got this car accident with April Wu. She's incapacitated at the end of the novel. That's a huge, I guess, cliffhanger. And then I guess we got to talk about the Hauty, because I guess that's would you say the attack or the car accident on April is one of his twists, or just a plot point? I guess we can't call everything a Hauty. No, I think what are the true Hautys in this novel?
I think there's two. One we talked about a bit, and I think it was a brilliant move to wrap up and put a bow on the father storyline. I was a little wondering, why is she so invested in this Hicks? Why does she care so deeply? She seems like a consummate professional who'd be able to just table a lot of that and focus on the mission. But that end scene, the biggest Hauty, pulling a Hauty, is when she goes to the house. She's talking to him on the other side of the door. He has this really like sheepish voice, almost just shameful, right? There's a lot of shame in his voice, and he can't bring himself to face her face to face. And I'm just wondering why. The man, when that pays off at the end with learning Charlie Hicks was an adopted alias, and that is Tommy Chill, her father, and he's now dead. Why'd he do it? What drove him this far to, it seems, commit suicide? Just great, deep question. So that twist of Charlie Hicks was Tommy Chill, that did it for me. So I love that twist. The other one is Claire Ryan. I think the big twist here is
that's the big one.
She's working for herself, and she hired Rafi Zamani. I think that's a big twist. What'd you think of Claire Ryan and how she's maneuvering?
Yeah, she's an interesting character, right? Because what she wants is power, and she mentions that. Yeah. And I guess that's a continuation from the first novel in Deep State, because it's mentioned that people in the Deep State, as opposed to Publius, like what differentiates those two groups is that Publius doesn't care about power; they cares about the country, whereas people in the Deep State, like what's the guy? The CIA guy comes back.
Odom.
Cook.
Yep,
Cook. Odom. They truly just want power, right? So she wants power. She gets into bed with some not too friendly people, but she has like an interesting backstory, right? She was pretty
captured.
brilliant. Like, rises to the ranks. Becomes this Boeing executive, then gets captured as like a hostage for like 50 some days.
Some domestic terrorist, yeah.
Yeah, gets raped during that interaction, which obviously alters her life forever. And this sort of event is what hardens her and realizes that she needs to protect the home, right? Like she wants to do this job. And when she gets elected as the Secretary of Homeland Security, she realizes that she doesn't have the right mandate. So how do I change that? And it's interesting. I feel like we've seen this before with some political characters, but here she wants, it's not the money or like personal power in terms of like being in charge of like the world. She just wants to be in charge of like safeguarding people. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was like it's almost like an attempt to make us relate to her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and then obviously you never get in league with terrorists, or someone who will do these plots because they're just because all she wants is these little like tiny things, like the newspaper. And she's like, if I had blamed it on North Korea, everything would be fine right now. I shouldn't have blamed it on Russia.
It's almost, she's like she's playing the hardball, the political game. She's trying to do it in ways that no one actually gets hurt, but trying to scare the American public and basically the Congress to expand DHS's powers, give her the authority, carte blanche, and a huge budget to do everything she needs to, in her mind, protect the country. But by what she thinks she's doing to expand her own powers, department, and budget to beef up national security and protect our infrastructure, in the end, that's what she wants, these good goals. But she's getting in bed with a Rafi Zamani. She's, having him hit our grid and take down, the grid and the network and even our transportation systems. Like, sure, they may not have mass casualties, but that's fucked up as a way to go about it.
Right.
And then she realizes definitely. Her mistake, right? When Rafi kind of turns on her and becomes this loose cannon, she realizes her mistake, and now she's got to cover her tracks. And one way she hopes to cover her tracks is, she's been trying to get on her team, Little Miss Angel at the White House. She's been trying to play and patty cake up to Hayley Chill. Which, Hayley, does she nearly fall for it? But she's always suspicious. But she at least for a while says, oh, this Claire Ryan is, a good American, right? Like, I wonder, I think she even wondered if she might be in Publius or be related. Because she was willing to work with Claire Ryan for a while. And I think part of that was almost genuine. Like, if Claire Ryan passed the test, I think Hayley might have opened up to her, might have shared things with her, which could have been dangerous.
Yeah, no, definitely.
She could have gotten played.
Yeah. She's an interesting character. In the end, she gets taken, almost dies. I was like, please don't have her die, like have this plane explode. Yeah. And her kid, I was more worried, like, concerned about her kid. I could care less about her, but, I don't want to see that. But, she gets taken
away.
And
the authorities took the kid, and
Right.
Kind of sad scene,
Yeah.
I mean, that's
anything else? You want to talk about Sam McGovern a little bit, or?
Yeah, we can briefly get into Sam.
Hayley's personal life.
I'm shipping them. I think the bar scene where they meet, he's a firefighter. We get no indication that he's suspicious. While this is Chris Hauty, so on the back of your mind is he a somebody? Is he a who's who in the Washington deeper state game? But what's really cool is that's not leaned into. So it's there for us to think about, but it's not forced or jammed upon us. He's honestly just an average dude who's going to a bar, blowing off steam, and he's pretty good to Hayley. So I kind of like that he's just a genuine straight up dude, and I'm shipping him. I hope he's around.
Yeah, me too. No, definitely.
Yeah.
That her interactions we've got now in the first two books with men are interesting. And you never know if one of them is going to be. I was just expecting, just because based off of Deep State, I was expecting him to somehow be, either a Russian mole or somehow involved with something. Right. Yeah.
It's almost refreshing when they're not that way. So you could be like, right. Okay, there are characters who aren't double secret, secret triple agents. Okay, that's good. There's normal people.
Considering the size of like the DC Fire Department, he does pop up. Like he was the one who was on scene for
April.
On scene for April. He was also on scene for when Yamane does his attacks, like kills those two dudes who try to take his dog and kills the 7-Eleven clerk. I think he was he also part of the fire crew that went into the White House when the president shot himself?
I don't know if he was involved in that, but he knew about it. I think they talked about it. He knew about it.
Yeah. Okay.
You mentioned the dog, which is interesting. There's a line
Hayley
where
adopts the dog at the end, right?
The two of them, Hayley and Sam, kind of take the dog. But then, so I'm wondering, will the dog show up in Storm Rising, which I don't believe it was mentioned. So anybody who wants the dog, Hayley and Sam raising a dog together, who was this former terrorist, Cyber Jihad guy's dog, don't get your hopes up. It's not a big plot line, though. That is something the two of us tend to theorize about a little too much. Izzat, the dog, doesn't really have much to do. So sorry to dash your hopes there.
That was interesting. Yeah.
I guess the last thing, we got to get to the scorecard, but
yeah.
What'd you think about this little, it's just a vignette. I think upon my first reading, I was confused. Hayley's father in this flashback growing up, and I guess it's an epilogue, in the river, West Virginia, at this barbecue. He's almost this mythical figure. He's not around much, but when he is, Hayley, is at his side, stuck to him like glue. At the barbecue, she doesn't want to play with the friends. She just wants to listen to his stories and help him, grill. But then she goes off with her friend, who's kind of a bitch, and she wants to smoke and hang out near the river, and it's washed away. What do you think of it? Like, it lasted a little too long just to have this nice, sweet story about her father. Sure, it keeps you invested. Like, okay, her relationship with her father is huge, and I'm bought in. It should be huge. Did you need that long of a vignette at the end as an epilogue?
Yeah, it was pretty long, but I bought it. I enjoyed it. I thought in it because I think that was the same character who ends up. Hayley goes to her funeral, right? And we get that scene with her and her sister, and while her sister hasn't moved away from West Virginia, she's also like the only other successful Chill of the Chill clan, right? So it sort of tied in some of the things, and it shows you. Doesn't she also like grab a rock and cut herself in that scene, right? Like, which is something to see that she's been doing it for a long time.
A little universe building, yeah.
Right. Adds. I thought it was interesting. We got it at the end. I thought you maybe could have even started off the story with that.
Yeah.
But I guess it's coming off this idea that it's almost like we just found out. She just found out that was her father, and then she had a flashback to like what a crazy memory or her favorite memory of her father. So yeah, no, I enjoyed it.
Maybe could have been chopped up and sprinkled. In along
like
the
we
way.
Gotten like pieces of it.
Yeah.
We sort of popped into it.
Although it is where we get one of the best quotes and advice that Hayley, I think, references multiple times from her father. Smart beats angry any day of the week. And a little luck don't hurt. That's a good one.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. All right, you want to get into the scorecard?
Let's do it. Let's jump right in.
All right, Mike, what do you got for action?
I like the action here. I really did. The attacks, the opening scene with Barrios, the escape from the White House. I think there was enough of it. Paced out pretty well. I think I'm going to go great, but not amazing. I'm going to go with a 7.
All right. Yeah, I gave something similar. I gave it an 8. I really enjoyed some of the, like the motorcycle chase scene at the, or not chase. I guess it is. No, I guess he's just running away. But that was kind of crazy how like Yamani ends up actually dying.
True.
I think he's like driving like kind of near where we went to college, Catholic University, right? So yeah, no, I enjoyed the action as a whole. For plot, I don't know. I feel like the plot was pretty conducive, and again, like you said, I bought into it and I enjoyed the plot. My problem is to score it high enough is does the plot rely too much on deep state? Like should that knock down points, or am I thinking too much into that?
No, I mean, I think that's a good thing about it. I like how the plot is a continuation. I like that it's relying on it. You know, like we've said, some of my favorite Rat books and Thor books are the ones that are part of that arc. So, you know,
all right, then I'm going with this. I'm going with a 7 for plot.
Okay, I'm gonna go a little higher. I'm gonna go an 8 because you can very easily do a cyber warfare, a cyber attack book, a hacking book, and it could feel very derivative. There's the formula to how to do this, how to write this. It's been done. You blow up this infrastructure. You threaten people with that. But I thought the way it wasn't derivative, the way it was woven into these characters, new and returning, and woven into their storylines and their motivations, I really enjoyed. So I didn't think it was the same old NSA, supercomputers, hacking kind of storyline.
Right.
I thought there was a little something extra going on with whether it's the Claire Ryan stuff or whether it's running President Monroe and can he attack cyber jihad? Or he can't be seen supporting the Russians, but he wants to support the Russians because if they were behind this. So I thought that made it very interesting.
Yeah, the attacks are woven in really well.
I agree.
And it's kind of like the opposite of like the Terminal List, where the attacks are like sort of take us out, and then we go to an attack, and then we like see the repercussions. They're a little bit more integrated, just like differently. Not to say like one's better than the other, but just it flowed. What about buy-in, Mike? Do you buy this plot? Do you think this could actually happen? The fact that the president is a Russian mole and we're running him as a double agent.
I'm torn because I would have gone pretty high on buy-in if it weren't for the president's extraction from the White House. That one part, I know you said you liked it, is just too big a stumbling block for me. So I honestly would have gone 4 here. I was bought into the story. I really, really was liking it. I wanted to know what Cyber Jihad was up to, and I loved how it kept me guessing who he was working for along the way. But I got to go down to a 3 because the extraction from the White House, while it was supposed to be this climactic action set piece, the whole time I was just asking myself, what? Wait, what? Really? Why? The Secret Service? No way. So, a 3 out of 5.
I'm gonna give it 4 because I actually like that scene.
You like that? Okay.
I didn't think about it that hard, so maybe that's why. And I'll score it a 4 before I think about it more. So there we go.
All right, I think I might pull out. Yeah, I'm gonna pull it out. I'm using my half for the bad guys.
Okay.
I really liked Rafi Zamani. I think getting inside his head and his monologues was awesome. I was equally okay with the Claire Ryan heel turn. Ryan. I don't think she's super bad. She still wanted what's best for the country. It's just her trauma of the past and her kidnapping made her go about it, I think, in a very strange way and like playing Washington politics, like in a really dirty way. Again, the inside the beltway kind of stuff, I think, checked out this book. So I'm going 4.5. I don't want to go perfect 5 on the villain. He wasn't that great a villain, but 4.5.
Right.
And Barrios.
Yeah, and we got Barrios. And we got Barrios. You know, and I guess, you know, Monroe is still a freaking
bad guy.
Russian spy. Yeah, no, I think the bad guys were probably one of the better parts of this book.
Yeah.
And I guess another Hauty is the fact that, or big plot twist, I guess other people have come up with plot twists before, but for the purpose of this pod, it's called a Hauty, is the fact that Yamani is working for the NSA. You know, when he gets called into work, his day job,
right?
And then next thing you know, he shows up at the Savage Road, which I live right by Savage Road. So
that was a heel turn.
Yeah. No, I'm actually going to pull out my half card too and give it a 4.5 because it's
right.
not. I don't want to give it a perfect score, but
It's not
it
a Hank
deserves
Clark,
higher than a 4. Yeah. All right. What about I guess not Hayley Chill, but all of our other good guys, secondary characters. We got a little bit more information about April Wu, a little bit more information about her handler, Andrew Wilde.
Another one, Chief of Staff Rogers, Haley's boss.
Yeah, I actually liked that character. He was cool.
Well
and,
written.
like, we get the
the flash forward.
The flash forward, yeah, where he dies reading like a book about Monroe, right?
Yeah, and it doesn't mention a word about Hayley Chill, and he plans to write a letter to the editor and the publisher about you're missing a key part of history in the Monroe administration, but he croaks before he has the chance. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that was a fun little.
So her work will remain hidden.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a 4 here.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna join you. I'm gonna join you on a 4. Big part of that was April Wu originally ransacking and tracking Hayley, but then becoming a very close friend and confidant. And all the while, you just aren't sure about Andrew Wilde. I didn't bring that up before, but as much as Hayley can rely on him for the operation intel and like doing the mission and, a little Overwatch, because she calls him at pivotal moments sometimes. At the same time, he's kind of a prick. He writes her off a bit.
Right.
Talks down to her a little bit here and there. So, and he's like,
he even gets mad at her for going after the terrorists, right? Cyber Jihad, because he's like, your main mission is not that. Your main mission is keeping the president safe.
You were just assisting April with that, but
right.
Yeah. So I'm going to 4. I liked Wu and Wilde. The setting. This is a DC book.
This is a very DC book. Yeah, I liked because he throws in. I've been to. I don't know. I'm a sucker for DC stuff because I grew up in there. I'm giving it a 5.
I think I'm going to. I think I'm going to 2. And another one for that is the Roslyn Metro. I was sitting there when I read it. The Lincoln Waffle Shop where Claire.
I know. I've been there.
Hayley meet. Yeah, it's a block away, or it's really just the block down from Ford's Theater. So famous DC institution, the Lincoln Waffle Shop. It's a little hole in the wall.
And that bar they go to,
right, and near
on
DuPont.
a date near DuPont. I've been to that bar. What is it called?
Oh man, I remember reading that too, and I was like, oh, that place.
And it has like it used to be cool, and then now it
had the stuff on the walls.
Talks about the red, the Godard. Oh, why am I've been to like more than half of the places that he references in this novel. So for that, maybe someone would complain, but I'm giving it a 5.
I agree. I don't want to say much, but the waffle shop comes back in Insurrection Day, which is kind of cool. Actually, my history teacher at Catholic University here in DC, I took a history of DC class, and our professor for our final, we had to talk to her about like a final exit interview for the class. We had one-on-one with her at Lincoln Waffle Shop. She met with every student.
Oh, nice.
She got us breakfast. We had waffles right outside Ford's Theater. And that was your final, like an exit interview, what you learned about DC history, literally looking at Ford's Theater.
That's cool.
It's kind of cool.
That's cool final.
Yeah.
I liked it when teachers would do like fun stuff like that.
Right. The cover. Judge a cover by the book.
I have to say I love the original is like this, obviously a woman, Hayley Chill, looking down. What would that be?
Pennsylvania?
What road would that be? Would that be Pennsylvania?
Are we on an angle to the Capitol building? Yeah, if we're on
I think we are at an angle.
It's probably Pennsylvania.
So angled on Pennsylvania with a car coming. So is that Yamani?
When are they there? Because the bar was in DuPont or Chinatown, somewhere in that area.
Well, there was two bars. Okay. Like she goes to one bar with Sam, right? And that's where she gets drunk.
The other one, the one that Rafi goes to with the motorcycle.
Is the Iron Horse?
The Iron Horse, which is actually right near Gallery Place. I think it closed now, but it was on that block south of Mount Vernon Square near the convention center. And they actually had a motorbike. hanging above the front door right when you walk in. So another thing Chris Hauty got right. That's why the setting was a 5. The colors are cool. The yellow and the blue.
I like the yellow and the blue.
Yeah.
We have a secondary edition that has, I don't know, for some reason it reminds me of like a movie trailer. It's very like,
I could see that.
You could see this in, I feel like I have seen this on a Bourne DVD. Like, I think if I go look at my Bourne DVDs,
it definitely looks like that.
It has that put together. And then we have the large print edition is one of the weirder covers I've seen. It almost looks like more of an erotic thriller as opposed to a political thriller with this hazy red glow in this shapely woman. Looking at the Capitol building. I don't know. How do you feel about cover C?
It's actually a real cover C, if I'm being honest with you. I don't think it's Hayley. I kind of am getting more of an April Wu vibe. But, like, is she on fire? Like, with this glow? Do you have any idea where this one came out? I know it says large print edition, but is it also geographic regions? Because it looks like a romance novel. Like,
it just says, I know, it just says large print edition. So
I think looking at all these, if I was going to grade the original cover, it's okay. It's like a 3.5. If I look at the other two, they're a little cliche, almost cartoonish, right? Like,
it's a 3. I
gotta go down to a 3. I would go down to 2.5, but I like the original enough to leave it at a 3.
Yeah, and leave it at a 3.
Not a strong cover game here, but
no, not as strong as Deep State.
You can't follow up Deep State, which I almost wanted to give a perfect 5 to. So yeah, it's got to be a 3. All right, for your free space, a quick winner. What are you doing?
I'm probably gonna steal this from you, but I like the opening scene a lot. Like, it's pretty cool how we open, and then we cut back, where we go back 10 days, and it doesn't even matter that when she leaves the White House, he's already left like 20 minutes earlier, but she just randomly meets up with him again. Like, by the time we get to that, we don't even care. It's just we remember this scene. We know what's about to happen. We know she's about to kill him. Yeah, no, I really like the opening of this book, so I'm giving the opening a 5.
Nice.
What about you, Mike?
I think that's a good call. I actually wasn't going to say it, though. That could fit. I think I'm just going to go with how you handled the return of April Wu and Andrew Wilde.
I was going to say that the April Wu and Andrew Wilde and like the connections with Publius are pretty good.
It was funny. Just after reading this book, April Wu and Andrew Wilde become such mainstays of a Hayley chill thriller and the universe. Yet then you go back and read Deep State, and they're only a side note in the last like 10, 15 pages. It was so strange because after this one, you feel like they're mainstays. They were handled so well. But they're not actually in Deep State really at all, throughout the story. Which is just crazy because I equate them with what Hayley's doing in Deep State like so closely, which shows that the twist worked. The heel turn stuck. And to double down on that was brilliant. I loved it. What's the total then? What does that mean?
All right, that means it gives me a shocking 40.5.
Ooh. Why do you say shocking?
Because it's higher than Deep State. My score for Deep State. Okay, my score for Deep State was a 36.5. I think yours might be also. I don't know.
No, mine was a 40. Yeah, Deep State I loved. I feel like, again, we lowball these things, man. All right, I can't do math. Can you help me here? I think I'm down one from you. I'm a 39.5.
Yeah, you're -1.
I think that's fair that I would say this is just ever so slightly lower than Deep State for me. You guys will have to listen to hear what we thought about Storm Rising. We don't want to say it here. And Insurrection Day we'll get to in a little bit. Hopefully just another few days and you will hear our take on that. I am going to say, Chris, it's up there. It's up there in the Chillerverse. It's a good one. Good novella.
It is very good. Yes. All right. Again, we need to thank our patrons, including our special operator, Sherry F., Our special agents, Daryl, Kevin, George, Matt, Dawn, Dennis, Peggy, Catherine, Ray, Bridget, Jeff, and Mark. Please subscribe, rate, and review using your favorite podcasting platform. You can find us online at thrillerpod.com. Or we have new Twitter and Instagram handles, don't we, Mike?
Yes, we do. At Thriller Podcast.
We are at Thriller Podcast on both those. And as always, what would Andrew Wilde say? Trust no one.